Hello everyone. Before we start, hit that like button and subscribe. Drop a comment with where you're watching from and what time it is for you. That's how YouTube keeps sending you stories like this. And now, let's get into it. I matched with him on a Thursday night, around 11:40 p.m. I was lying in bed, fan running on slow, room dark except for the white, blue glow of my phone. His profile photo looked like a normal selfie. Soft smile, short hair, no weird angles, no flashy dressing, no thirsty captions. Just a plain-looking guy holding a cup of coffee, standing near a street sidewalk in what looked like winter clothes. The bio was simple. One line. It said, easygoing, likes long drives. It felt like every other profile I'd seen that week. Nothing stood out. The app showed we lived about 13 miles apart. Close enough to meet without it feeling rushed. His name was marked as Adnan R. The first day, he replied fast, like someone bored but interested. The second day, he asked about my work, my sleep schedule, my weekend plans. On the third day, we were sending voice notes. His voice sounded calm, deep but not forced. No slang I couldn't understand. No ego, no overdoing it. I remember thinking, at least he doesn't sound like the usual copy-paste guys. I'd been on dating apps for almost 2 years. I'd built a mental alarm for fake stories, love bombing, emotional bait, or too much flirting too early. But this one felt different because my alarm never rang. We talked for 3 days. 3 very average, chill, normal days. He told me he worked remote in logistics consulting, but never said the company name. That part didn't bother me at first. A lot of people keep job details vague online. I didn't judge it early because nothing else felt off. His pictures showed him outdoors sometimes, a blurred background of mountains in one, a car steering wheel picture in another, and the profile one with coffee. He snapped a photo of his desk and laptop once, clean table, a notebook, and a black pen. The room in that desk photo looked too neat, almost like a rental office, but again, nothing screaming at me, just a thought that passed. On the third night, after a long Friday shift at the hospital, I opened the chat again around 10:10 p.m. My scrub smell was still on my clothes. Coffee breath, tired eyes. I remember scrolling up at the conversation, smiling lightly at the dumb jokes we'd sent without saying, thinking how odd it was to meet someone who didn't feel like a puzzle. That comfort is what made the later fear sharper. Later that night at 1:02 a.m., after I'd showered and put my phone on charging, I got the urge to search him online. Curiosity, not suspicion. Just the way you Google someone because you want extra context before stepping into real life with them. So I typed his full name from his last voice note signature he sent earlier, Adnan Raza. I wrote it in Google, then LinkedIn, then Facebook, then Instagram. Nothing. I tried Adnan Raza Islamabad. Nothing. Adnan Raza Karachi. Nothing. Adnan Raza Lahore. Nothing. I even searched university tags, school groups, event photos, old cricket teams, old debate societies, NGO volunteer lists, public blogs, archived comment threads. There are always crumbs, even for quiet people. A tagged photo. A graduation like. A random comment under a pizza place 10 years ago. A neighbor wishing you ate in 2016. But here there was no dust trail. I thought I may be spelling it wrong. So I tried variations. Adnan R. A. Raza. Adnan Raza Logistics. Adnan Raza Consultant. Adnan Raza Logistics Consulting. Nothing. The app had shown his account created in 2022. That suddenly hit differently. Usually, you assume new accounts are just new starts, but they don't erase someone's past. Then I paid for a background check website. It asked for name and age. He never told me his exact age, but his profile looked 26-30. I entered 28 as an estimate. The service scanned public and private records. The result was empty. No matches found in national or regional databases. That sentence creeped me out more than anything directly threatening ever could. No registered numbers, no residential history, no academic history, no business records, no tax records, no membership logs, No family name connections, no property trail, no legal footprint, no old usernames, no domain registrations, no public certificates, nothing tied to anyone with that identity. Blank human. I tried again on another paid service portal with broader filters. Still nothing. He existed nowhere. Only on the dating app, and only in photos that he personally sent me. Even reverse image search of his pictures gave nothing concrete. The coffee cup one only led back to generic stock photos of coffee. No match to his image itself. The mountain one brought up mountains, not the person in front of them. It was like the photos were staged just enough to not be traceable to a moment, a place, or a circle of people. The next day, Saturday, daylight was sharp and loud. I remember waking at 7:31 a.m. Amazon sound floating in, cars already honking, and I still had that question burning feeling in my chest. I opened the chat. His replies that morning were slower but polite. Something had shifted. Maybe my tone changed without me noticing, or maybe he sensed control slipping. The avoidance started showing up only when I checked the tone, not the words. He never said, "I don't want to tell." He just slid past. When I asked where he studied, he brushed around it, said something like, "It was a long time ago. Logistics but no school, remote work but no employer. Long drives but never a shared location story. Family but no names, childhood but no memory." He kept asking about me but gave nothing solid back. Not rude, just vacuum smooth. Like someone sanded his past until nothing snagged. I remember sitting on my couch at 5:16 p.m., lights off even though it wasn't dark yet, ceiling fan rattling softly because it was old, holding my phone with two hands, thumbs frozen over the keyboard. I had a weird feeling, the kind that comes right before a person turns from normal into unknown category. The fear wasn't about who he was. It was about how completely he wasn't. I tried to gather one single anchor. One childhood picture, just one. Not even a full conversation. Just, do you have one old photo? No pressure words. No emotional manipulation. But even that request triggered a fracture. He sent one last message. "You're asking too many questions." It didn't feel angry. It felt cold, like a door click, not a shout. Then the account disappeared. No unmatched you. Alert. No chat thread. No notification. No profile. Nothing in the recent matches list. Nothing in my chat backup. Empty space where a person had been. I stared at that blank screen for a full minute. Then 5 minutes. Then an hour. I felt a knot, but not the movie kind. The everyday real knot. The kind you get when you realize a human can vanish without social dust, and the world won't even cough. I reported the profile to the app. I filled the form. User suddenly disappeared, no identity online. Suspicious avoidance. The app support responded 2 days later with a generic message saying the account had been removed after policy review for inconsistencies in verification data. No elaboration. No details. No identity returned because there had been none stored to return. After a week of that hollow mental itch, I spoke to a friend in cybersecurity. He told me people like that fall into a few real categories: identities scrubbed because of legal trouble, burners built from fake documents, or profiles tied to men working scams or targeted exploitation rings. The most chilling part wasn't danger. It was the craft. Someone can now build a human-shaped profile, live inside it for days, ask you personal data gently, dodge anything that gives you power to trace them, and then burn the identity without leaving a recorded origin. Not magic. Not ghosts. Just the internet and intention. I changed how I use these apps after that. I didn't quit. Fear like that doesn't make you offline forever. It makes you sharper in the real-world way. I now save profile screenshots early. I run reverse image checks on day one. I never invest emotional space in a profile without at least one accidental anchor. A tagged photo, a childhood moment, a public circle. I don't even need the conversation. I just need proof that someone existed before the year I swiped him into being. Months later, I realized something important. He didn't disappear to hide from me. He disappeared because he never intended to exist, somewhere I could stand beside him in the first place. The ending wasn't tragedy or a jump scare. It was understanding. The danger wasn't a threat sent in caps. It was silence built like a plan. I deleted my old chats from everyone else eventually. But the empty space he left didn't disappear when he did. It turned into a rule list I now live by. The story closed when I stopped asking, who was he? And started saying, he was no one accessible, and that was the point. That is the clean ending. Not a one-liner. Not confusing. Just real. Some profiles aren't people you escape from. They are profiles you never step into at all. I remember the first message he ever sent. Plain. Normal, no flirty lines, no love emojis, no pressure to reply fast. His profile looked clean. One photo in a blue shirt, one holding a coffee cup, one outdoors with a faint city skyline behind him. His name was written as Hamza K, age 27. Bio said engineer, coffee lover, early riser, so average it felt almost boring. That boredom was the reason I replied. Everyone else tried too hard. He didn't. We talked for 3 days before making plans. Short replies at first, then longer ones. Lines like asking how my mornings felt, if I liked foam on coffee, if loud cities drained me or energized me. Nothing odd. No red flags, no rush, no love bombing, no late night calls. I liked that. It felt calm, safe. Real. When he asked to meet, it was at a coffee shop I already knew. Popular, crowded, semi-expensive but reliable. A place people use for business talks and casual dates. Glass windows, indoor plants, slow jazz music playing at low volume, and a counter that faces the street. He suggested 6:30 p.m., right after office hours. Not too late, not weird. I said yes. The day I flew to Nepal in another life, I got sick on the plane. I remembered thinking then that my throat felt like betrayal. This was different, but the memory floated back because anxiety always pulls old fears forward. My throat was fine now, but my gut felt like it used to on those bad mountain roads. Tight, uneasy, warning me without words. I reached first. 6:22 p.m. The shop smelled like roasted beans, sugar syrup, and warm milk. The barista was wiping the machine. Cups clinked gently. A group of students sat in one corner. A man on a laptop typed aggressively near the counter. Nothing strange. I picked a seat that had a clear view of the shop, and also a side path toward the staff, only hall that leads behind the building. A habit of sitting where exits exist. I always do that without thinking. I had worn a dark green jacket and light shoes for walking fast if needed. My phone was charged to 89%. Small details feel stupid when life is normal, but when fear shows up, you realize you were preparing without knowing you were preparing. He walked in at 6:34 p.m., no rush. Hands in his coat pockets. Slow, confident steps like someone who had rehearsed this entrance. He sat before even greeting properly, leaning back into the chair. That long, smiling stare started almost right away. A strange delay before doing anything human like removing his coat or ordering a drink. His teeth were clean and bright, but the smile sat too stiff on his face, like a mask someone forgot to soften for realism. I expected him to order coffee, he didn't. Not then, not later. He just sat facing me, head slightly tilted, eyes locked. No blinking urgency, just steady focus. The kind of stare that doesn't seek a reaction, just collects one. That is when the unease turned physical. My spine felt colder than the building air. My shoulders tightened. My breath got shallow. Not panic, but alertness. Like prey recognizing it was no longer watching the world but being watched inside it. It wasn't one detail. It was the timing of details. The seconds between them. The absence of harmless noise from him. No tapping feet, no glancing around, no checking menu, no clearing throat, nothing. Just that smile stretched on silence. At 6:41 p.m. my coffee arrived. A cappuccino, foam-shaped into nothing special. Warm ceramic cup. I placed my hand on it more for acting normal than drinking it. He leaned forward a little when the cup touched my fingers. Just a few careful centimeters, like a sensor triggered. Then he said the exact line, "Drink it before it gets cold." His voice was low, controlled, almost too measured, like someone reading a cue card behind my head. Still smiling when he said it, but the eyes shifted from me to the cup for a fraction, then back to me. Cup. Me. Cup. A rhythm forming. I didn't drink it. I knew I wouldn't drink it before he even said that line. My body decided earlier than my brain did. A survival instinct older than social politeness. But humans can't just stare and say no without tipping off danger. So I chose clumsiness. a weapon less suspicious than refusal. At 6:43 p.m. I spilled it, not a dramatic movie spill, just a believable slip. My wrist angled slightly too quick and the cup slid, tip splashed. Foam and coffee bleeding on the wooden desk. Liquid splatter dotting my sleeve and the floor beside me. A small, messy accident, the kind everyone forgives instantly. He didn't forgive it. His smile dropped like someone had unplugged it from power. The smooth mask vanished. His jaw tightened the slightest bit, nostrils flaring quietly, irritation crawling over his expression before he could stop it. That change told me more than any threat could. Because normal men laugh when coffee spills. Predators frown because the plan just failed. He pulled out his phone fast, despite having moved like slow confidence a minute ago. Muscle memory betraying the act. He dialed a number without looking at the screen. That alone was a detail that twisted my stomach. Who memorizes numbers in 2025 that aren't family or business? No one normal. Someone who plans emergencies does. He stepped away from the table, turning his back slightly but keeping his phone near his mouth. Voice dropped into almost no sound. It looked like whispering, but not the shy, embarrassed whisper of a date-avoiding cringe. It looked like command, order, update. His thumb tapped the phone twice when the call connected. Then he stood up fully. He said he'd be back. A casual phrase, quick. As if leaving the scene calmly would save the illusion. He didn't look calm, though. The chair behind him moved when he stood. Not pushed, just kicked by momentum. Another tiny betrayal of intent. The coffee shop had a front door that opens onto the street with the big glass windows. As I wiped my sleeve with tissue, I let my eyes drift outside casually like someone scanning rain clouds or traffic. That is when I saw the car, parked across the road, angled slightly toward the shop, like the driver wanted a surveillance view more than a parking view. A gray sedan. Windows rolled up, engine humming faintly because the exhaust pipe emitted slow visible heat waves despite the evening chill. Two men inside, short hair, dark jackets. One in the driver's seat, one in the back right seat, not talking to each other. Both looking at the door, not at me, at the door. Watching the entrance like occupation, not curiosity. Observation sharpens when fear leads. Their posture was that of waiting for a signal, not scrolling feeds or drinking water or making small talk. Men who wait for green or red signals have stiff patience. Regular people have loose, impatient bodies. These men had stiff, disciplined patience. I checked my phone for the time, 6:45 p.m. Only 3 minutes had passed since the spill, but it felt longer because danger expands time. The barista was now cleaning the machine, oblivious, living in a reality where coffee is the only threat. The students were laughing, a normal, careless, carefree laugh. Laptop man still typing. But me. I had mentally moved into terrain where exits mattered. The shop had a back hall for staff deliveries. I knew its existence because months ago, I once asked where restrooms were and a waiter casually pointed in that direction. That memory saved me now. Panic feels loud and sloppy. Survival feels quiet and fast, so I left quietly and fast. I dropped cash on the desk without asking for a bill receipt. Receipts take seconds. Seconds are debt when danger is interest. I walked toward the back hall, pretending to look for the restroom. My steps were calm but quick, not suspicious, just slightly rushed like someone late for personal business. In old mountain villages, receipts saved guides from gang extortion. Here, not needing a receipt saved me from becoming one. As I reached the hall, I glanced back once. Hamza was already near the glass door area, phone in hand, eyes aimed outside. Not searching for me with date confusion, coordinating with external eyes. That sync between him and the car outside confirmed it. The situation was no longer romantic awkwardness. It was containment strategy. I pushed through the delivery hall door that staff used for supplies. A side stair led downward behind the building where trash bins and stacked milk crates sat. No pigs, no shame, just concrete and cold air touching my face like relief. Cool wind, crisp evening air, the opposite of that choking trap energy inside the shop. I climbed down fast. My shoes hit the ground quiet but firm. Street noise hummed faintly in the distance. I moved into it like camouflage. As I rounded the back wall, one of the men from the car crossed the street. Not walking slowly like a shopper, moving fast like assignment. Another tick toward confirmation. Then I heard steps, running steps, shoes hitting coffee shop tile loud like urgency. A man went inside. Not a man, one of the men. That moment felt like a bad drive where the road ends and extortion begins. But here I found my trail faster. I cut through a narrow side lane behind the shop that connected to the next street. Darker, less crowded, but movement feels safer than enclosure. Light feels safer than being the subject of it. I didn't run until I hit the next street. Even then, I walked sharply, long strides, head down slightly like someone avoiding puddles, not predators. I reached a busy road by 6:51 p.m. Food stalls, rickshaw horns, evening crowd noise, the messy lifeblood of Karachi moving like an unfiltered guard around me. My lungs expanded again. I opened the app before reaching home. My hand shook slightly, but my mind was steady. I blocked him. No last messages, no dramatic closure, just removal. Clean cut, the kind you do when survival outweighs curiosity. I also removed the app that same night, permanently, not because of moral panic, but because the system failed its job of filtering danger from convenience. I didn't want to be matched again by patterns I could not read. 2 days later, I tried Googling the coffee shop name just to see if anything similar had happened there before. A local news page mentioned nothing specific, nothing recent. Predators don't make news when their plans fail. They vanish back into silence and algorithm shadows. A friend later told me that some men use dating apps to target people for scams, extortion, or worse. I didn't need the theory. I had lived the field study. The tea house owner from that old Everest story argued to save a boy from dying on a trail. Here, instinct argued to save me from becoming a disappearance case on a date trail that never should have existed. The outcome wasn't heroic, it was practical. I reached home that night at 7:27 p.m., locked the door, checked every entry point, drank water from my own sealed bottle, showered, and sat in still silence. The ending felt clear because I walked away whole, unpaid for, unmonitored, uncontained. The fear didn't need ghosts. The real world had provided enough. And the lesson settled in like, wait, normal faces can still carry plans and silence can still come with backup parked outside. I downloaded the app late one night. It was one of those niche queer apps, the kind where the community is small enough that you start seeing the same faces over and over, even if you scroll for hours. I wasn't looking for anything serious. Just curiosity, distraction, and maybe someone who matched my late-night energy and chaotic humor. My profile was simple. A few normal photos, one a little blurry because it was taken by a friend on a rooftop. A short bio. No location, no job, no hints about my daily routine. Just vibes and borders. When she popped up in my matches, her profile felt warm and clean. Bright photo, shaved undercut, relaxed smile, eyes like someone who enjoyed telling stories more than hearing them. Her bio talked about music, sunsets, old cafes that smell like dust and nostalgia. She wrote like someone harmless, someone safe. We talked for about a day. Nothing weird at first. She laughed at my dumb lines. I liked how easy it felt. It had that softness you only get when both people don't try too hard. Then she sent the screenshots. At first, I thought it was a joke, maybe venting or sharing some cringe moments like people do. So many screenshots. Scrolling and scrolling. Different apps, different people. But every chat ended the exact same way. A variation of the same sentence. Stop following me. Stop following me. Stop following me. It was creepy because it was identical. Like copy, paste, but from humans who never met each other. I read it 3 times. The messages before that were different, unique, some short, some long, some flirty, some dry. But the endings were like a pattern of fear. That was the moment my gut tightened. I checked her profile again. The photos didn't change, still looked normal, but the context around her did. It was like the harmless mask was stapled over a much darker person. I asked what they meant. She didn't dodge directly. She wrote an answer that felt casual but sharp, like a knife wrapped in cloth. Meet them, they get scared, then I find them anyway. I stopped breathing for a second. It reminded me of those people who treat boundaries like suggestions rather than rules. I asked where she found them. No reply. The chat sat silent for hours. Her typing bubble never showed. Instead, the app delivered a photo message. My stomach dropped before the image even loaded. My apartment building. Perfect angle from the street. The main gate. The cracked sidewalk I walk over every morning. The bakery sign glowing orange on the ground floor. My floor wasn't visible, but the building was unmistakable. The building I never mentioned, never even hinted at. The building I assumed only local people would know. I looked at my window immediately, even though it was 2 a.m. The street was below, shadowed under flickering sodium lights, people long gone, shops closed, the air heavy with the smell of tires and cold brick. No movement, just parked cars and the stray dog that always sleeps near the gutter. I checked my profile one more time. No location shared. No connected social media. Nothing that could lead a sane person to my home. But clearly sanity wasn't the rule here. I opened my gallery app on my phone and checked the photos I used on that profile. One by one, the rooftop picture, the cafe picture, the mirror selfie, no geotags saved. I always turn that stuff off. But then I checked the raw file properties using a metadata viewer I had downloaded months ago for a work task. Most were clean. But one photo, one stupid photo, had the name of the cafe in the file name because a friend sent it to me over chat before I uploaded it. That cafe sat directly across from my building. A 40-foot distance. A 30-second walk. I never gave coordinates, but I gave proximity. That's all she needed. I felt sick realizing how little information a bad person needs if they are patient enough to reverse engineer your life. She didn't need to know me. She just needed a dot on the map, then worked backward until she hit my door. Some people treat discovery like sport and other humans like prey. I unmatched immediately, blocked her profile, deleted the chat. Not out of optimism she'd vanish, but out of a need to cut every digital thread she could still tug on. But I knew the problem wasn't the app anymore. The problem was physical. Real. Human and possibly waiting outside. I didn't sleep that night. I sat with my room lights off, laptop screen dimmed to 1 bar, curtains slightly open so I could monitor without revealing myself. My building had 12 floors, peeling paint on the side, a dented elevator that groans like an old animal, flat roof water tanks, and a narrow service road beside it that leads to the garbage collection point. The street cameras rarely work. Some are dead skeletons. One works intermittently, but is aimed too high to capture faces. I knew if she showed up and stood under the blind spot, there'd be no evidence of her presence. I made a plan fast, a real plan, not one from movies, one from survival logic. Early morning, leave before traffic. Don't use the main road. Cut through the alley behind the bakery loading dock. Blend with school drop-off noise. Take a ride to my cousin's house 30 minutes away. No luggage. Just the normal backpack I carry every day. No drama, no big movement. Just exit, fade, relocate. At 5 a.m., the air was gray, cold, and full of delivery motorcycle noise. The sky was waking, but the sun hadn't cleared rooftops yet. Pollution hung in a thin mist. Coughing from distant houses echoed. The building's security guard sat inside a small booth drinking tea, scrolling through his keypad phone. He didn't know what danger looked like in this case, because danger looked like a 20-year-old girl in street clothes, smiling from the sidewalk. People don't register threats when they wear the face of someone you could bump into casually. I stepped out. My body felt heavy, cautious, wired on adrenaline. I didn't look for her. Looking for the threat is how you reveal you fear it. So I didn't. I walked like someone late for a morning office cab. My keys jingled. My shoes scraped lightly. I kept my breathing steady and blamed the cold. The alley smelled of trash bins, yeast from the bakery, and the damp odor of overnight condensation. Stray cats skulked near cardboard piles. A sewer grate gurgled. I crossed into the back street where kids in uniforms gathered in clusters, chattering, waiting for vans. A vegetable cart vendor hollered prices in a half-awake voice. Someone spilled water outside a shop and swept slowly. Ordinary life was my camouflage. I got the ride. Reached my cousin's house before 7. Still 0 messages from her. I told my cousin the truth. Short version, direct version. No app names, no screenshots, no panic voice. Just that someone had traced my building from small hints. She got it immediately. I stayed there 3 nights. Ice water, disinfectant smell, and ceiling fan hum filled the house, while I sat cloaked in safety, but mentally scanning threats that weren't even there. During those nights, I learned what real fear sounds like. Real fear isn't screaming. It is calculation and silence. It is watching exits like you watch the clock. It is remembering small details about your environment, because those details might save your life. It is asking yourself questions you never prepared answers for because danger didn't warn you that it was coming. On the fourth day, I went back, but not inside my home. Just the street view. I stood near the same bakery, but at a different corner I had never photographed or walked through often. I wanted to confirm absence, not return to continuity. The dog was still sleeping in the gutter. Kids still crossed that cracked sidewalk on the school rush. The dead cameras were still dead. The working camera blinked a lazy red. No suit, wearing girl on a bike. No parked car I didn't recognize. No figure lingering in blind corners. I never reopened that app. I didn't delete it out of anger. I deleted it out of a lesson. Some people hunt connection and some people hunt people. The problem isn't detecting the monster. It is detecting the normal person who isn't normal. The most dangerous humans blend so cleanly into ordinary life that you only realize what they are when you see your own building staring back at you through their lens. I eventually moved. Not immediately. I let time pass so the change didn't look like a reaction, just a life update. New address, new street, a building with cameras that work, a building with visibility. I now treat digital privacy like physical locks. Not because I'm paranoid, but because I learned how easily someone can stitch a breadcrumb trail into a map. The fear faded slowly, the kind of fade where your gut relaxes 1 centimeter at a time. There are no ghosts in this story, no demons, no dark magic, no curses. The horror was a human who wanted to know more than I wanted to share. The horror was data traces, proximity clues, and the chilling calm confidence of someone who believes fear in others is proof of their power. The ending is this: I stayed safe. Nothing physical happened, but my world changed shape after that match. The danger didn't strike, but it revealed itself. And sometimes that is the real horror, not being hurt, but being seen by the wrong person and knowing it. I had used dating apps for a couple of years, but nothing ever felt like that night. Most of the time it was boring chats, dry humor, the same pickup lines, the same small talk. I had grown used to the patterns, but this one match felt smooth at first. His profile looked clean, normal photos, a short bio, no obvious red flags. We talked for 2 days. Just texting. He replied fast, wrote full sentences, asked normal questions. Nothing too dramatic. Nothing that made me pause. It felt like a quiet rhythm. Predictable. Easy. On the third night, we switched from text to a voice call. That was when the tone moved in a direction I wasn't ready for. His voice came through calm. Low, steady, like someone who had nothing to hide, nothing to rush. But the background told a different story. Right after the call connected, I heard voices. A woman was crying. It was not a small sniffle, not soft sadness. It was a broken, uneven cry, like someone who had spent hours or days crying without a break. I heard a man say, "Sit down." The voice sounded sharp, commanding, like an order that wasn't meant to be ignored. Then came metal sounds. Chains. They clinked together like something heavy shifting. Not the light jingle of keys or loose hooks. This was thick iron noise. Deep, slow. Real. Then water dripping. A steady, hollow drip, like it was landing on a metal surface or thick stone. One drop every second or two. Sharp, spaced, echoing slightly. The kind of sound you hear in old basements or tunnels, not living rooms. The air felt damp even through the speakers. My brain started painting the space without permission. I asked where he was. He told me he was at home. But the voices kept moving behind him, faint but impossible to miss. The crying woman's pain flowed between every other sound like a pulse. Then he laughed, short and cold, when I questioned the crying. A laugh that didn't match the rest of his calm tone. He said not to worry about her. but every instinct in my body fired alarms. My heart was hitting my ribs like a hammer. My hands were sweating around my phone. The silence around me felt safer than the noise around him, so I hung up fast. Not slowly, not politely. Fast, like snapping a lock shut. I reported the profile. The app took it seriously and removed him within hours. That gave me a small push of relief, but it also made the whole thing more solid in my head. The platform doesn't delete profiles for overthinking. They had picked up something. Maybe other reports, maybe flagged behavior, maybe something hidden in his data and patterns. Either way, he didn't exist on the app after that. But just because the profile vanished didn't mean the moment did. The sounds were stuck in my head, looping in details I didn't even realize I had memorized. I thought about it more than a normal person should. I replayed the order of every noise. The crying was aged pain. The command was male, dry, irritated. The chains were thick, like rusted prison links or security restraints. The drips were wet echoes. The setting didn't sound like walls with paint. It sounded like walls with age. Old concrete. Underground space. Unfinished, uninhabited area. Home can mean a lot of things to a person, but to most people it means cushions or plates or footsteps on floorboards. Not crying, chains, dripping water, and orders. I work in IT, so I understand how much information sits behind digital profiles, but also how much is missing. It bothered me that he gave digital signals of someone normal, but his real-world audio screamed something else. I started doing open-source digging on my own time. Nothing illegal, nothing fancy. Just the kind of search anyone can do when curiosity and fear mix together. First, I checked his username handle. It didn't link to any other major platforms. That meant it was either new, purpose-built, or scrubbed. Then his first name only. Too generic, too loose. Then the photos from memory. His first profile picture looked like a selfie near a riverbank, but I had only glanced at it for seconds back when we matched. Most people on apps take photos near water because it looks aesthetic, not because it means anything. But now the water in the background of his profile picture felt like a weird breadcrumb. Water outside, water dripping inside. Just a coincidence. But coincidences feel bigger when you only saw the worst moment of someone's world. Then I searched image reverse tools. I didn't expect much. I was right. Nothing solid. No direct hits. No name match, no old web footprint. It was like searching for smoke after the fire had already been drowned. I even checked old public record websites, forums, archived pages. Zero. That almost made my skin crawl more than the audio did. People usually leave crumbs everywhere without trying. Old comments, school mentions, job references, tagged photos, someone who knows them online even slightly. A digital ghost in a realistic horror story made no sense. But a digital gap where a real person should be, that made sense. Some people exist quietly until a moment exposes them loudly. I kept thinking about the crying woman's voice. It sounded close to the microphone, not distant. That means she was not outside or in a nearby alley. She was indoors, maybe even the same room. The man who said, "Sit down," was louder than the drips, which means he was closer to the speaker end. Near the phone, the drips coming from somewhere further, maybe a corner, maybe another chamber-like room, but still connected by open space. Chains don't move by themselves. Someone was handling them. Either the same man or another person. The chains had slow physics to their sound. Heavy weight. The kind of metal you can't lift or shake with one hand. I thought about basements. Most apartments in my city don't even have basements, and the ones that do usually have storage cages made of thin metal, not chains. This didn't sound like storage metal. This was thick industrial chain. Underground leaking pipes can drip water like that, but not with that echo unless the room is empty or shaped like a chamber. The cries also had an echo tail. Tiny but noticeable when there's a break between sobs. That means open hard surfaces, not furniture or rugs absorbing the sound. I stayed up late going over every possibility. Maybe he lives outside the city. Maybe he was near a small private well house. Maybe a hidden room, maybe something crime-linked. Maybe. Fear makes you build more scenarios than logic should allow. But one thing stayed clear. It sounded like someone was being held against their will. The crying was not emotional heartbreak. It was trapped pain, unfiltered, unplanned human distress. The command was not a suggestion. It was control. Chains clink when someone is not free. Water drips when you don't have control of environment. People order others to sit down when they physically stand over them. For a week, I couldn't shake the possibility that I had heard a live crime scene through a dating app call. It felt unreal because I wasn't there, but it felt real because of how raw audio is compared to curated images and text. When you hear crying, you can hear dehydration in it. When you hear chains, you hear thickness, weight, rust, friction. When you hear orders, you hear pressure, posture, intent. People think video is more real than audio. I disagree now. Audio doesn't lie unless it's edited. And this was not edited. It was live, breathing, dripping truth. I told myself to stop searching, but curiosity with adrenaline is hard to control. Then one night something shifted. I talked to a friend who works in law enforcement. I didn't mention the app name or profile, just described sounds in layers, like a tech analysis, not a dating story. She told me that cries with echo, metallic restraints, dripping water, and control commands align strongly with unlawful confinement environments. Domestic spaces rarely produce that sound profile. The likelihood pointed towards crime. It hit my stomach like a stone dropping. I realized the app did the right thing removing the profile. But removal only protects the digital lane, not the real-world lane. I decided to file a voluntary tip with cybercrime units. I gave timestamps, audio patterns by memory, duration estimates, voice depth analysis, the exact sequence of noises, emotional echo characteristics, chain thickness estimation, verbal tone contrast of calm speech versus environmental distress. They logged it. Whether it leads to a case I may never know, but logging a tip puts a pin on a map somewhere. A quiet official breadcrumb that may one day connect dots I can't see. Months passed and nothing connected back to me. No knocks, no messages, no digital trace returning. That is the part I hold on to as the good ending. I never got pulled into something bigger. Never got unsafe, never met him, never had my life flip sideways because of one call. The profile got removed quickly, a sign the system caught the danger lane before it widened. I filed the tip, handed the fear and logic up to people trained to see what I can't. Now when I open a voice call on any app, I listen to the background first, not the voice. I listen for absorption, echo, rust weight, distance physics, human distress signatures, command pressure, the texture of a room without seeing it. I swipe more carefully. I don't assume home means safe anymore. But I also know one moment of fear pushed me to report, tip and close a door early. That keeps the ending good and clear. The danger never reached my street, and the crying voice reached someone who might one day help her in a way I can't. I still remember the sounds, but remembering is not losing. Remembering is proof that sometimes you escape not because the world is safe, but because you reacted fast enough to step off the track before it collapsed. I had always trusted verified profiles more than normal ones. To me, that little blue tick felt like a safety net, a digital stamp that said someone was real, traceable, and accountable. His profile looked clean, normal, and even a little too polished. He had recent pictures, all taken in different settings: outdoor cafes, gym mirrors, one at a rooftop with city lights behind him, and another holding a coffee while looking away from the camera, like someone had snapped it candidly. Nothing felt off. His Instagram handle was linked right there, open for anyone to check. I tapped it before even replying to his first message. His feed had hundreds of posts. Trips, outfits, food, cars, motivational reels, and stories where people tagged him in group dinners that looked expensive enough to hurt my wallet just by looking at them. He had almost 40,000 followers, and most of them weren't bots. The comments were real, personal, sometimes teasing him, sometimes praising him, sometimes asking for business advice. The followers gave me a warped sense of comfort, like society had already vouched for him. We talked for a few days. Short, casual chats. Nothing intense, nothing too personal. He never asked for my address or family or work details in the early days, which again lulled me into thinking he knew boundaries. I remember sitting in my room, fan humming because of the summer heat, scrolling through his stories where he was giving advice to new graduates about career moves and networking. His voice in those videos was calm, layered with confidence. I thought, this is a guy who has life figured out, someone who can open doors, someone who probably gets tired of small talk. By the time we fixed the dinner plan, I had already imagined the date dozens of times. I picked a restaurant that felt fancy to me, but was probably mid-tier to him. I wore a black shirt I had ironed twice out of nerves, pants that were clean but not too formal, shoes I had brushed until the toes shined. The ride to the restaurant felt heavier than normal. I kept checking the Uber's side mirror every few minutes to see if I looked composed. My reflection looked like someone pretending not to care, failing badly. My phone buzzed with date reminders from the app I had set up to psych myself into being punctual. He hated lateness, he had told me early on, one of those subtle details I had filed under standards. Instead of control, I reached first. Sat at a small table near the corner, where the lighting was warm and dim enough to hide sweat, if August decided to sabotage me. The air smelled of grilled meat, garlic butter, perfume from a couple nearby, and faint traces of floor cleaner that restaurants try so hard to mask. I ordered water and forced myself to sip slowly, like someone who belonged in spaces like these. When he walked in, people looked. Not like he was a celebrity, but like someone whose presence subtly changed the room. Tall, neat beard, expensive watch, posture that screamed boardrooms and negotiations. The kind of guy whose LinkedIn could probably get me a job if I held it hostage. He sat down without looking tired or rushed, even though I knew from his Instagram stories that he had come straight from a meeting. The date began fine. The food was good. We ate. My shoulders were tense at first but loosened after a few bites. Then halfway through the meal, he casually dropped a line about side businesses. Not the bragging kind. The matter-of-fact kind, like sharing the weather. But the words were strange. They carried a nonchalant cruelty. Like someone telling you they keep wolves in their backyard, but also mow the lawn. He said the projects were large, sensitive, sometimes messy. He mentioned NDAs like they were napkins. Then he said he avoids people who talk too much, because they tend to fade out of opportunity. At first, I didn't catch the weight of it. I assumed he meant reputational damage, career setbacks, or bad networking. But then he said disappear wasn't metaphorical when it came to future prospects. He explained it like he was describing market logistics, not human lives. It hit me slowly like cold spreading through fabric. Not dramatic, no thunderbolt moment. Just a slow drop in my gut temperature. He enjoyed asking personal data from the staff. Not jokes. Real questions. He looked at the waiter like a data point in a live dashboard. He asked about ethnicity first, not loud but direct enough to make the air around the table curdle. Then salary, phrased politely but timed like a psychological test. Then hometown, delivered like the final coordinate to complete a triangle. The waiter's face gave nothing away at first, but unease has its own grammar, small shifts in posture, micro pauses before answering, eyes that flick to exits or supervisors, hands that adjust nothing but look for tasks to hide in. The waiter didn't protest or walk away. But humans don't need a protest sign to show fear. His discomfort was thin, stretched, and visible to someone who wasn't used to wielding power. I watched him enjoy it. Really enjoy it. The subtle lift of his chin, the ghost of a smile when someone gave him leverage unknowingly, the quiet satisfaction of collecting hierarchy over strangers. Not violent, not illegal on the surface. But dominance doesn't always need crimes. Some people collect it like bills in a filing cabinet. I tried ending early, not because the dinner was bad, but because my instincts were screaming in muffled static. I remember calculating plausible excuses in my head: an emergency call, next day work early morning, stomach ache. But even the planning felt like I was crafting alibis instead of exits. When I stood, he stood too, like gravity had tied him to my movement. He reached for the handshake before I could frame an apology. He stretched it long and controlled the pressure like a man who believed hands could transmit ownership. The handshake was firm, but the threat was in the philosophy behind it, not the grip. He held just long enough for me to notice that time was his variable, not mine. Then he mentioned networks, HR systems, access logs, recruitment databases, digital fingerprints. He didn't raise his voice, but power rarely yells. It whispers because it already knows it's heard. That night I ghosted him. I turned off read receipts on every platform I owned, like sealing windows against an approaching storm. The calls started hours later, not one number, 4. Then more over the next days. Each number different, each dial pattern deliberate. I memorized none on purpose, but I still registered the repetition like Morse code tapped against sanity. I blocked them all. Then I changed my own number entirely. The telecom store smelled of plastic, adhesive, and August sweat when I got it done. My hands shook again there too, but for a different reason now, not romantic nerves, but the echo of a handshake I never wanted again. I locked my social media for months, not deactivated, just hidden. Set to private, profile view limited, stories visible to no one. My Insta follower count dropped without fresh posts, which was a blessing disguised as loss. I didn't want visibility anymore. Not if eyes like his treated humans like digital assets. I told close family later. Not the emotional version. The facts. They helped me craft layers of separation. I hadn't known I needed different work emails, updating job portals with aliases that still stayed legal, wiping my old data footprint from recruitment sites, deleting my profile photos from reverse search engines, untagging myself from every public post where I could be found, disabling location history, and wiping old cloud backups that stored addresses or timestamps. It felt like I was deleting a version of myself, but really I was saving the future one. I never heard from him again after the number change, but the lesson stayed like a scar you earn without bleeding. The world is full of people who don't break laws, only careers. Who don't hurt bodies, only futures. Who don't shout threats, only hint at systems. The scariest dominance is administrative, calm and smiling through dessert. Months later I went back to dating apps with a completely different mindset. I no longer looked at blue ticks as proof of safety, only proof of presence. And presence wasn't the issue. Intent was. The long handshake was the loudest thing he ever said. Not words. Just pressure, timing, and a belief that systems make him untouchable. The fear didn't vanish in a single moment. It faded in stages. The heart slows first, then the mind unclenches. Then the body accepts that distance is a real defense, when applied ruthlessly and quietly. There was no final showdown, no dramatic closure. Just digital amputation, social invisibility, and a return to myself slowly, like thawing out after cold water. I kept the lesson but dropped the dread. I wanted connection again, but on my terms, with people who respect power instead of hunting it. The experience didn't steal dating from me. It just rewired the filters. Now I look for the human behind the confidence, not confidence itself. Because the mountains aren't the only wilderness where bull moose roam unaware. Sometimes they're sitting across the table, asking a waiter how small they feel. And survival isn't always running through forests. Sometimes it's changing your number and letting the shaking stop before you ever step back out there. I never thought I'd end up in something like this. Not from a dating app, not from a random swipe on a normal Tuesday night. It started with the photos. The man looked like a model, the kind of unreal beauty that feels edited by teams of people, not taken by a phone camera. Sharp jawline, perfect skin, dark eyes that carried a strange calm, like he never got tired, never worried. All his pictures were too clean, too polished. Him wearing suits, leaning against cars that looked rented, but nothing screamed luxury. It was like expensive taste without a logo, like someone who wants to look good without looking rich. The kind of profile you see and think fake, but harmless fake. I swiped anyway. Curiosity is my weakness. Always has been. I grew up snooping around things people told me not to touch. Maybe it's a habit from childhood, opening cabinets, reading old letters, poking in attics. So when I matched with him, instead of feeling excited, I felt that same pull. What if he's real? What if he's not? What if he's neither, something in between? His bio was short, no quotes, no jokes, no emoji. Just a few plain words about liking quiet places, long drives, and privacy. The kind of sentence I myself would write if I wanted to sound normal and stay unseen. Nothing desperate, nothing emotional, nothing trying too hard. Verified badge was there. That made me even more suspicious. I checked his Instagram. He had thousands of followers. None of them interacted like friends. They liked his photos like an audience, not a circle. He posted rarely. Same face, same style, no voice, no stories, no reels talking to camera. No personality leaks. No messy bits. Just this clean, still portrait of a human I couldn't read. I talked to him for 3 days before agreeing to meet. Not long enough to trust, but long enough to think I wasn't walking into a scam. We planned dinner at a quiet restaurant in a part of town that was busy without being loud. I didn't want an empty street, and I didn't want a crowded mall. Somewhere in the middle, like I always choose in life, I arrived first. The restaurant had warm yellow lights, wooden tables, slow jazz in the background, not loud enough to follow the melody, only loud enough to fill silence. The place smelled of roasted meat, black coffee, old wood polish, and that faint cold scent restaurants get from running air conditioners too long. I sat near the corner, facing the entrance, not fully hidden, not fully exposed, just enough control. Then he walked in. I recognized him before he opened the door fully. Same face, same eyes, same height, same walk. No difference at all. There was a strange relief in seeing someone exactly like they appeared online. Most people look 80% like themselves in photos. He looked 100%. Not a hair out of place, not a different angle, not even a different energy. It stirred something uneasy in me. A profile can lie, a photo can lie, followers can lie. But a body in front of you that matches every frame you saw. That felt like a glitch in reality. He sat down across from me. Didn't order anything. Just sat, shoulders relaxed, smile fixed but calm, like his face was carved to hold one expression only, that smile. I still see it now when I blink too slow. He smiled with lips closed, corners slightly up, controlled and constant, no flickers, no breaks, no tension lines changing. The kind of smile that doesn't invite you in, it just sits there and watches your reaction. If I wasn't already sitting, I think my legs might have betrayed me. He said the photos were of his missing twin brother. He explained it like it was a fact on a form, not a tragedy. No shaking in his voice, no sadness that escaped around words, nothing personal spilled out, just details. Names, dates, height, old towns, the disappearance time frame, the search effort. The brother went missing years ago. No social media updates from his side since then. No bank activity, no phone records after a certain month. No official death, just absence. He used the pictures to lure people who might know something. Again, no emotion. Like telling the weather forecast. Then came the question. If I'd ever date someone who looks like a missing person. It landed in my stomach like cold metal. The knife and fork chill without the knife showing. I said I had to go. Not dramatically. Not loud. Not running. Just calm words, the same calm we see in online videos teaching you how to leave a burning room. I pushed my chair slowly, grabbed my phone, coat on my arm, stood with steady pace toward exit. Every part of me was screaming. But the outside was small movements only. He didn't stand, didn't block, didn't touch, didn't stop smiling even once. The silence between us stretched thin but didn't snap. No scene. Just pressure. I walked out into the street where people were waiting for rides, talking into phones, standing in small groups, unaware of anything but their own dinner plans. The road had cars passing like normal city breathing, headlights sliding on asphalt, brake lights glowing, horns far away but not too close. Life in motion, steady and ignorant. I crossed the street and turned left, picked a different direction from my bus stop. Not because I was lost, but because I wanted distance first before logic. The night air was colder than the restaurant's AC. The smell here was petrol, dust, grilled corn from a nearby stall, and wet concrete because the city had been washed by rain earlier that afternoon. I blended into the sidewalk crowd slowly. Every few seconds I glanced at reflections in shop windows, checking if a figure was out of place behind me. Nothing stood out. Nothing chased. Nothing followed. That almost felt scarier. I took a bus home instead of a ride-hailing app. Buses are slow and public and messy. They don't offer direct routes or digital footprints. They're inconvenient armor. I sat near the middle, surrounded by people whose eyes were half asleep, faces lit blue by phones, shoulders slumped after long work days. The bus rattled like an old animal shaking off weight. The windows carried smudges from years of fingers and rain. The seats smelled of fabric that has absorbed time too long. I clung to that. Time felt safe. At home, I blocked him before even taking my shoes off. Reported the profile and typed every detail I could remember in the report box. The app said it would review the case. That sentence means nothing to me anymore. It's a void phrase. What actually saved me was noticing patterns. That night I opened his Instagram again from a browser without logging in. I took screenshots of comments under his posts. Many of them were questions. Are you Daniel or David? Why do you look like those missing posters? Stop using his face, we know what you're doing now. These were old comments, buried under months of silence like footprints fading in sand. I dug more. Checked missing person forums on social media, volunteer search group pages, local Facebook posts about disappeared hikers. I found his brother's face on a community-made poster from years ago. The exact same photos he used on the dating app. Word for word, pixel for pixel. But here's the twist no one expects. The missing twin wasn't the dangerous one. It was him. Because 6 months before we met, a woman had posted a warning on a public group. She described a man who used his missing brother's photos to approach strangers. She said he wasn't looking for information. He was fishing for vulnerability, for curiosity, for the people who don't run when things sound odd. She described the handshake, the constant smile, the calmness, the lack of personal emotion, the eye contact that didn't blink first. It was all him. Every detail matched, no guesswork required. The police later confirmed he had been questioned in relation to 2 stalking cases, but there was never enough proof to hold him. The system needs proof louder than patterns. The world is full of people who survive because danger was quiet. I wasn't the first curious person he met. I'm just one who wrote it down later. The ending didn't happen in the restaurant. The real ending happened in the small weeks that followed. Every night when I walked home from work, I checked my surroundings differently. I learned to notice smiles that stayed too still, audiences instead of circles, verified badges that verify nothing but existence, not intent. I learned how absence can pretend to be innocence. I learned that curiosity is a door with no lock. And most important of all, I learned the value of leaving early in silence. Nothing supernatural happened. No ghosts, no shadows moving alone. Just a real human who practiced normal so well it became a trap. The world is full of these traps. Quiet ones, smiling ones, verified ones, beautiful ones. The kind you walk into because you want to test reality. I stopped testing reality after him. Reality tested me first that night. and I passed only because I walked out before the handshake could close like a cuff. Now when I see profiles with perfect photos, I swipe left instantly. Not because they're fake, but because occasionally they're real. And real monsters don't need folklore to be frightening. They just need a curious person, a quiet restaurant, and a smile that never breaks. I joined the app on a quiet Sunday morning. It was one of those slow weekends where nothing felt exciting, so scrolling through profiles felt like a small window into the world. My job was standard office work for a logistics company, a normal 9 to 6 schedule, access cards, employee IDs with barcodes, company email with extra security steps. Nothing fancy, but it was a stable job, and I protected it like something fragile because in the city I live in, stability is rare. His profile was average. No heavy editing, no perfect model pictures, no travel shots in Dubai or Paris. Just a regular face, trimmed beard, shy smile, soft eyes. His bio was short. No dramatic lines, no poetry, no ego-filled punch sentences. When we matched, I expected small talk that would fade in a day or two. But it didn't. We talked for hours on that first day. Not deep, not philosophical. Just normal life chatter. Work stress, childhood cartoons, late-night food, how boring Mondays were, how traffic drained the soul. Every message felt gentle. He didn't push. He didn't rush. No hints that made me uncomfortable. No comments that felt layered or double meaning. It felt clean, simple, uncomplicated. Days passed. 1 day, then 2, then 3. Before I noticed, a week went by. I opened the app every evening when office notifications slowed down. I'd finish typing emails, close the system, step into the elevator, and his messages would be waiting like something warm at the end of a long day. He was sweet, polite, predictable. He asked about my day, but never demanded more details than I wanted to share. He never acted impatient. That was the reason I kept replying. Politeness is a language that disarms caution. He spoke that language fluently. My daily routine was rigid. I lived alone in a small rented apartment near the business district. Gray walls, narrow kitchen, a window that faces another building's brick wall. No roommate, no pets, no visitors, no noise except the occasional generator hum and distant horns. After work, I heated instant noodles or rice, drank cheap coffee, put on a random documentary or video in the background, and scrolled the app while brushing my teeth or unwinding my brain. So when someone appeared regular and non-threatening for days, it created a false sense of familiarity, like this person existed in the safe boundaries of my life, even though they were just pixels on a screen. I work for a large company, so we have central email systems, HR portals, employee directories, internal chat platforms, but employee ID cards carry sensitive markers. A clear photo, employee number, department code, company name, and a small magnetic strip for building access. The company warns us during onboarding never share the card photo or employee ID number online or with strangers. That warning sounded dramatic when I first heard it. It felt like something only careless people fall for, or something that happens in Hollywood office thrillers. Average people don't get targeted. Average people don't have anything worth stealing. That was a comfortable myth I used to believe. His request for the favor came at night, a Tuesday night that felt heavy. I remember that day too well. I had spent the afternoon manually sorting delivery discrepancy sheets, answering calls from angry vendors, updating shipment statuses, and resetting my password twice because IT forces password updates every 30 days. My brain felt squeezed like dry sponge. I remember putting my laptop into sleep mode, walking towards the elevator, entering 4-digit access PIN to leave the office, and feeling the usual post-work numbness. When I reached home, the city felt hot, sticky, loud. I took a cold shower, changed into a faded t-shirt and loose trousers, ate leftover rice from the fridge, and opened the app out of habit. By then, 7 full days of normal chatting had passed. That's why the message felt different. Because the tone didn't match the person I thought I knew from the screen behavior. The first part of the request sounded normal, something vague about sending me something important. But the details of what he wanted felt like someone calmly asking for the blueprint to a locked, vaulty email. Phone number, employee ID card photo. My breath actually paused while reading it, like when you see a sudden crack in something you assumed was solid. My first reaction was confusion, then refusal. People reveal their real shape most violently when denied the thing they wanted quietly. When the words changed, aggression replaced sweetness like a mask falling off a face that was never gentle to begin with. That single moment erased the week I had spent thinking he was different from the usual app profiles. The shock wasn't loud, it was internal. Like a metal door slamming behind me in total silence, I blocked him immediately. That action felt final, heavy, irreversible, but also obvious. It wasn't emotional, it was instinctive self-defense. The app doesn't show deleted matches after blocking, so his profile disappeared from my chats like it melted into blank space. I remember putting the phone on the table, staring at the ceiling for a long minute, and feeling a cold awareness settle between my ribs. The old myth cracked further. Average people do get targeted, not because they're special, but because they're easier to test. 2 days passed quietly. No strange messages, no random calls, no new anonymous accounts. For a moment I convinced myself the block worked the way digital actions are supposed to work. But danger doesn't arrive in dramatic shape. It arrives disguised as normal security notifications. Thursday afternoon, around 3:12 p.m., while I was updating internal shipment sheets, I received a company email alert. It was a login attempt warning from our internal Office 365 system. Someone had tried entering my company email password from another city. Not just one attempt, but multiple rapid attempts. Wrong password typed aggressively, like someone was forcing their way through digital lock. The city name shown was far from mine. Another district hours away. Nobody in my department works from that city. My phone buzzed because the system also sends backup login alerts to registered mobile numbers. That buzz felt louder than sudden physical knock on my apartment door. I felt the same reaction as the first moment. I refused the favor internal alarm without visible motion. My body was sitting at desk, but my brain was sprinting. The request for employee photo suddenly made more sense. Scammers don't ask for ID pictures for sentimental reasons. They plan access impersonation, password resets, social engineering calls, HR fraud, and email takeover. They crack open identity first, then build digital copies to walk into places they're not allowed to enter physically. I immediately went into system settings, changed my company password again, wrote email to IT security, and triggered an account lockdown protocol. It turns out the security team had seen his profile among several flagged accounts tied to data mining and corporate phishing. They told me they had been tracking large patterns where dating apps and social apps were used to extract personal identifiers like company data, access markers, and employee card images. My case was a small piece in a much bigger puzzle. That fact didn't calm me. It made the world feel sharper and less predictable. The company forced a full audit on my email account. They checked internal mail forwarding rules, password history logs, recovery email change attempts, and suspicious geolocation patterns. They deactivated my employee card temporarily and issued me new one with updated markers. When I collected the new card from HR desk on Monday morning, holding it made me feel like I had narrowly escaped someone borrowing my face to commit corporate crime. Dating apps were supposed to be a normal way to connect with people. That was the idea. A simple digital form of meeting strangers who might eventually become something known. But connection is not always a meeting. Sometimes it's reconnaissance. Sometimes it's digital fishing with emotional bait. That week I thought we were getting to know each other. He was mapping identity details, checking compliance, testing boundaries, and probing security weak points. After the incident, I deleted the app and activated extra security steps on all accounts too: factor authentication, backup email alerts, unusual login notifications, and password change reminders with stronger patterns. My company upgraded my account protection, so even if someone attempts another city login, the system locks faster now. I also learned how fraud teams read digital footprints better than ordinary people read faces. Life continued in standard shape after that. Work emails still arrive, vendors still complain, traffic still drains energy, and the apartment window still faces brick wall. But something inside me shifted. I don't distrust people now. I distrust blank spaces where people should have a history but don't. Even sweetness can be scout disguised as comfort. Real danger isn't sharp red flags. It's perfect absence of them. The ending didn't break me. It taught me something solid. Not everyone who talks to you wants to know you. Some want to wear you, borrow you, access your portals, open your workplace doors digitally, and create replicas from your identifiers. Blocking him saved me from handing over the keys willingly. System alerts saved me from losing them unknowingly. Now, when someone online asks for important personal favors too soon, my instinct doesn't negotiate. It blocks faster than my heart can soften. The world stays real by staying cautious, and that is how I kept both my job and my name. I matched with him on a slow Sunday night when I was bored and scrolling through delivery menus I could not afford. His photos looked normal. Nothing too polished, nothing too staged. Just a man smiling near a lake, another photo holding a coffee cup in natural sunlight, one casual mirror picture with a wrinkled shirt that made him feel real, almost comforting. His bio had that rehearsed humility vibe. I'm honestly just looking for someone real. The apps are wild these days. I remember thinking it was cheesy, but harmless cheesy, predictable cheesy, the kind that makes you roll your eyes, not the kind that sets alarms off in your gut. The first week was easy. Good morning texts, check-ins during lunch breaks, messages that felt like spilling little details of daily life without thinking. He asked what kind of coffee I liked. I said sweet, cold, and expensive. He said he liked plain, hot, and simple. It was the safest mismatch imaginable. No danger, no romance, novel fireworks. Just that slow burn of familiarity. Like hearing the same song twice and realizing you know the tune more than you thought. We met for our first date at a community garden cafe. I picked it because it was public, calm, and had enough background noise to swallow silence without making it awkward. He arrived 5 minutes early, which impressed me in an annoyingly green flag way. He wore the same outfit from one of his pictures, like he was trying too hard not to try too hard. He handed me flowers. Light pink carnations tied in brown craft paper, not fancy, but thoughtful enough that I felt seen, not targeted. I remember exactly how they looked because they became an echo later. An unwanted echo he paid. I let him. He opened doors. I noticed. He asked polite questions. I answered most of them. It was 2 hours of safe smallness. No long stares, no weird comments. Just calm. I left thinking, well, he exists. That's new. For almost a month it stayed like that. Just dates, once or twice a week. Texting more than calling, which I liked because calls felt intimate too fast for strangers. Then the calls started creeping in anyway. Casual at first, short, almost accidental voice notes. Then one evening, a full call. He said he missed my voice. I fought the cringe, blamed it on pop culture, and assumed it was sweet. That was the first moment I filed under. Maybe clingy, but fine clingy. I have learned that clingy and dangerous are neighbors. They share fences, sometimes backyards. By the second month, the clinginess walked inside the house. Not literally yet, but in pace, in tone, in frequency. He texted if I took longer than expected to reply. He double-checked my schedule like it was a shared calendar. He sent paragraphs about the importance of communication when I was still Googling how attachment styles worked. I tolerated it longer than I should have, because nothing was outright scary, just exhausting. Like a heavy coat 2 sizes too small, uncomfortable, not lethal. I ended it on a Thursday evening, not dramatic, just the dull honesty of being drained. I felt lighter after. A stupid part of me even hoped he would move on cleanly and prove that the app had finally given me one emotionally intense, but ultimately harmless person. I was too optimistic for a digital age where intensity is data, and data is leverage. For the next week, my phone felt quiet and almost suspicious in its peace. I worked overtime, ordered mediocre takeout at sad hours, watched documentaries that did nothing to improve my mood, and let life blur into safe routine. That was the illusion. The quiet illusion. The night it broke was a Friday that technically spilled into Saturday. 1 a.m. is a weird hour. It's late enough to make every sound feel deliberate, and too early for birds to rescue you with morning normalcy. I was on the couch. Lights dimmed to one warm bulb in the hallway. My feet were under a thrifted blanket that had a cat scratch hole near the corner. The TV was on mute because the noise of silence felt less creepy than the noise of fiction. Then I heard it. 3 knocks, not aggressive, but certain, measured, familiar rhythm. The kind of knock that carries identity in the tempo. My stomach dropped, but my brain tried to negotiate. Maybe wrong house. Maybe coincidence. Maybe neighborhood guest. Maybe not him. I did that stupid careful walk toward the window first. The way animals check movement before committing to fight or flight. And there he was. Clearly him. No doubt, no blur, no misidentification possible. Tall frame. Shoulders slightly curved forward like in the coffee photo. Head slightly tilted like the garden cafe evening when he asked too many questions about childhood memories. He held flowers. The exact flowers. Light pink carnations wrapped in brown craft paper, tied with the same thin jute string bow I remembered from the first date. My memory is annoyingly good with visuals. That night I wished it was terrible. I had never given him my address. Not once. Not casually. Not accidentally. Not shared on any profile. But there was one moment weeks earlier that replayed like a warning siren. A food order I placed while he was on call with me. One of those nights my throat was dry from talking too much. In the background of the call, faintly, almost unnoticeably, I had heard the beep of a delivery driver scanning a label. I even heard faint rustling that could have been paper, but I never thought someone could memorize that level of detail from stray background sound. It felt paranoid to assume that. Now it felt naive not to. He must have heard it. The scanner beep, the subtle vocal cues of someone reading out a label, the shift in background acoustics when the bag moved. Humans leave fingerprints in sound too. I just never realized someone could collect them like evidence. I bolted to the door, locked it, slid the chain latch for extra useless reassurance, and then hit every lock in the house like I was sealing a submarine. The lock on the back door that always sticks in winter, the side window latch near the kitchen sink, even the patio bolt that usually squeaks but that night clicked with chilling softness. My dog stirred in his bed but didn't bark. Worse than barking. Calm. Like the threat was already part of the environment. Not a new intruder. Animals sense storms earlier than people. I should have trusted the silence of his instincts. For a second I just stood there. Breath loud enough in my ears that it felt like shouting. My house felt small and transparent. Like walls were suggestions, not barriers. I turned off the hallway light so the house looked asleep, then slowly peeked through the side curtain. He was still there, not moving, not blinking, not texting, not calling. Just standing in that position of soft forward tilt, flowers held low, eyes locked on the dark house, like he was calculating which window was warmest to haunt with presence alone. 1 full minute. 60 seconds of unbroken focus that felt longer than any breakup conversation I never had. Then he stepped back. Slowly, like someone exiting a set, not a property. No urgency. No expression. Just retreat choreographed by someone who already made their point. He disappeared into the street shadows that swallowed him a little too smoothly for comfort. I did not sleep that night. My brain built diagrams out of small details. How he stood centered outside the path light even though it was off. How the flowers weren't crushed even after 2 months. How the knocking was too polite for someone trying to reconnect, and too controlled for someone emotional. How silence around him felt intentional, engineered, almost curated, like absence of red flags was the flag itself. At 7 a.m., sunlight finally dragged the street into honesty. I walked out carefully. Flowers were gone, driveway bare, no petals, no bough, no craft wrapping fragments, no trace of presence that could be photographed or proven to a third party. Just the ghost of risk that only a person who lived it would carry. Deliveries start around 9 here. He came too early for regular errands. Too late for common sense. Right on time for impact. I reported the account later. The app said they would review it. Review is a slow word. Danger is fast. I also filed a local safety request just in case he tried again. Some neighbors installed camera lights recently. Coincidence or ripple, I do not know. But my street feels less blind now. Still not fully safe, just less blind. I eventually deleted the app. Not out of hopelessness. Out of pattern recognition. Some people are not ghosts, but they move like hauntings anyway. They collect details, wait in silence, measure reactions without needing dialogue. Horror is not always loud. Sometimes it's polite knocking on wilted flowers, and a man who proves that kindness without boundaries will always be scarier than rudeness with honesty. 2 months taught me more than background checks and verification badges ever could. Normalcy is not safety, politeness is not stability. Nice guy energy can be camouflage when someone studies the delivery label in your silence, like a citation for a life you never invited them into. Now I double check where my voice carries. Restaurants, calls, echo, open mics, background noise, where sound can be harvested like a second address. I lock before midnight, and I check driveway patterns on weekends without realizing I'm doing it. The flowers did not kill me, but they redesigned how I move through the world. And that kind of horror is the most realistic part. Because here I am, narrating it, not as fiction, as awareness.